Can you believe it's Thursday? It's 6 o'clock, and this is the ABC of CBD with me, Russ Kane, and the extraordinary Oliver Mammon. This is show number 55, which is just tremendous. So without further ado, let me bring on the hunk of hemp, the count of cannabinoids, Oliver Mammon.
Yo, how you doing, Russ? Thank you so much.
Well,
Episode
getting there.
55.
We're getting there bit by bit. Yeah,
thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming back. It's nice to have you back.
It's nice to be here. Where are you sitting today? There's lots of
Still in my lab. I've just changed my angle round, so I've got my hot plates in the picture. We could do some mid-session infusion.
You tease us with little snippets of your lab.
Yeah.
I think before we go any further, shall we just we have to pay the rent, so let's do this and then we'll get on with the rest of the show.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD, a product created by users for users, a product at an affordable price, available everywhere at any time at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
Ta-da!
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 As always, I always say that I'm just a passenger on this show. Ollie insists I'm here, which is very, very, very nice of him. But over to you, because we've got not one but two guests this week.
Exactly. So today we're actually joined by Cardboard Creative. So we're joined by Jay Taylor and Kevil Tanner. I'll get into them in a little bit. I just want to say, if you're watching us on the YouTube channel, hit subscribe, hit like, follow the page. If you're watching us on Facebook or the Men's Radio Facebook page or the Men's Radio website, star the page or do whatever you need to do to remember it. Set a reminder in your phone. Tune into the show every week. Support us. We're here for you, and we love you guys listening to us. I said this earlier. It's really nice that Russ is here. He's actually graced us with his presence, and I love having Russ on the show.
I've had 4 weeks of a throat. It's not that I can't be asked to turn up. I've had, as you can possibly hear, the rest.
If you don't want to come to work, you don't want to come to work. I mean, like, what am I supposed to do? You're my line manager. I can't complain when you don't come to work.
Well, I just couldn't be bothered. No, as you can probably tell, I'm trying to get over 4 weeks of this stupid throat virus, and it's been playing absolute havoc with my schedule, not to mention my health. But here we are. Anyway, back to you. 55 weeks. Congratulations.
Exactly. I can't believe it's episode 55. Right. Our special guests today are, like I said, Jay Taylor and Kevil Tanner from Cardboard Creative. Today's episode is actually called Cannabis Education from Behind the Camera Lens. So education has been our topic for a couple of months now, and today it continues as we are joined by a slightly different type of guest. Today we are joined by Jay and Kev from Cardboard Creative. Cardboard Creative has been focal in capturing cannabis stories and sharing educational content in this space since 2018. As content creators, they have interviewed and filmed hundreds of activists, advocates, businessmen, cannapreneurs, doctors, professors, farmers, growing.
Stop. What was that fabulous word you just used?
Cannapreneurs.
I love it. Did you make that up?
Yeah. Trademarked and coined.
I love it.
Registered word. It's owned by the show. So if anyone else uses it, you've got to pay us royalties. Yeah, so right. Cannapreneurs, doctors, professors, farmers, growing experts, fellow educators, patients, long-standing industry experts, innovators, and enthusiasts. They've worked with several cannabis media companies, and they have produced content for many leading industry brands, procuring, filming, editing the content, which frames so many of us in the industry as in such a good light and makes us look really great. And that's basically what they do. Now, Jay and Kev are the men behind the camera, the men in front of the magic, and two guys you will very rarely get to see. However, the education, insight, and open view these two have had of the cannabis industry across the scope of the many sectors I've just discussed is unique and priceless. Most of us get to see and hear the interview. They have been in the conversation. They have experienced the pre-interview and the post-interview. They have seen the lives that don't get filmed. They have heard the stories that don't get recorded, and they really have fully immersed themselves into an industry from an angle that most people haven't. And they've really had a real behind the scenes insight into the lives of the people that have made this industry their lives. And it's this view which most of us don't get to see, is that even on this show we get an hour with our guests, and after that, before that hour, we don't really speak to them. After that hour, we don't really speak to them.
No, they don't want to normally talk to us.
Exactly. So Jay and Kev have had this relationship with all of these patients, because when you actually create a piece of, edited content, you spend 6 hours filming to create a 30-minute piece of content. So they've had this real view of how things are done and why people act the way they do and make the choices which they do. So hopefully we get a bit of an insight into their world today.
Shall we bring them in from the digital green room? They're enjoying our digital coffee and digital full buffet. But
Very
here we
nice.
are. Here is Jay, and here is Kev.
Hello.
Hey guys.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh, yes, Kev. Yes, Jay. Welcome to the ABC of CBD. Thank you for joining us.
We finally made it.
Thank you
Finally made the cut.
Russ, I've got that same throaty coffee thing that you've had for a while, mate. It's
it's
killing
a pain.
me.
It's an absolute
nightmare.
I can't shift it.
Excuse me for a sec.
Is that why I haven't seen you either? So literally, this is why me and Jay are the only two who get to see each other, because the rest of you just decide not to do anything. It's great. Jay, you know what we
This is
should
why
do?
we're the only two working.
We should partner up, and we should leave like the left-hand side of the screen.
Just a minute, Mr. Jay Taylor. Just a minute, Mr. Jay Taylor.
I've known you for 5
seconds.
Not
You've already
you,
hacked me
Russ.
off.
I know you work really hard behind the show. So
no, it's not just that. I haven't stopped working. I just can't talk properly. Right, bless you both for coming on. It's very good.
No, thanks for having us, Dan.
Right, that's absolute pleasure.
You think the introduction was apt? You think it was a fair introduction?
I think it was actually quite glowing, Ollie. Thank you for that. I was sitting there going, oh, Ollie.
I like setting the bar really high. That's
I know.
I want to see you guys fail. I want to see you guys fail.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Really appreciate that. I'm sure you don't mean it.
No,
thank
honestly,
you. That was lovely.
If you think about the first time I met you guys end of 2018, beginning of 2019. You were behind the camera. I was in front of it. That was the first time I met you guys. And I mean, that weekend when we met, I think you filmed like 200 different people. I mean, you've heard stories, you've met people, you've been immersed in this culture and in this industry in a way very different from everyone else. Plus, you've come into this almost with your own opinions. So it's not like you came in to the cannabis world as capitalists, or it's not like you came in as activists. You haven't come in as advocates. You haven't come in with a predefined view of the world. You really have come in objectively, and you've come in and to create content which tells the story correctly. And it's different from most people, but also you've heard things, you've seen things, and you've had to edit down everything you've recorded in order to kind of get the story across. But like, I feel like my introduction is pretty apt, because I've seen you guys in play, and I've seen you guys have that 35-40-minute conversation before, and almost get an idea of the way the way the clock ticks before you kind of dive in and start telling the time. Do you understand? And I've seen that before, and I just want to say, that's why I wrote the introduction the way I did, because that's how I actually do see you guys.
I mean, I guess from my perspective as well, like, a lot of what you said doesn't really hit us because we're there and we're in the thick of it, right? So you don't really stop and see what's going on around you, because there's a lot going on around you already. But looking back on it and thinking about the words that you were saying, the amount of patients that we have spoken to, me personally, there's been a number of projects where I've been behind the lens, listening to the stories and, helping cut that down. But there's been an immense, there's a huge number of people that we've interviewed whose stories are so relevant, and to be able to be the one witnessing and getting that down is one thing, but then seeing other people, being able to relate to it, talk about it, and embracing the things that we're putting in and distributing in the marketplace is just fantastic.
Sorry, let me just ask you, were you filmmakers before, documentary makers before? What's the deal with you guys? How did you get to this point?
I'll tell you the story.
One of my first questions.
It's not the longest story.
I love it when Ross steals the questions.
Myself and Jay have known each other for a few years through a mutual friend, and we were both working around media. I kind of came from an entertainment background, and we both started filmmaking But a lot of it was content generation, and we always somehow fell into the markets that were what we deem as kind of wrongfully positioned or misunderstood. So Jay started in the vape circuit and that vape market, which was really like it got kind of misconstrued as like, is it a nicotine replacement thing? What is it? And we always worked in that space, and we got offered the opportunity to start filming for one of the bigger expos in the UK, to do with hemp and CBD. And Jay was like, he came up to me, and we actually set up Cardboard Creative as a business between us because of that show, because we were just doing so many little jobs together. It made sense for us to just partner up and get on with it.
Join forces.
And that, like, to put it in the shortest way, when Kev was still employed, I said to him, when you leave this employer, within 3 years, we're starting a business. And I kid you not, within the grasp of that 3 years, it happened.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic.
And like, look, we've always had a passion for media, and we loved making content. But I think actually the experiences we had, especially in the CBD space, made me fall in love with documentary making and really educating, but not even educating directly, but respectfully sharing people's stories, and allowing them to tell the story that should be heard but wasn't getting heard. And in all honesty, and I'm sure we'll dive deeper into this, the difficulties we've had just to get content to the market because of the limitations, and I'm sure you're aware of it because of this show, but just because of the topic we're talking about has become such a hurdle that actually making the documentary is the easy bit. Like capturing the content and allowing that person to tell us their story is really simple. It's actually getting the powers that be, the medias, to allow us to share it has actually been the biggest challenge.
Several things there, Kev. I find this fascinating, as you probably gathered, Ollie. Number one is that you are doing
I keep Russ entertained. That's all that matters. As long as Russ is entertained, he doesn't run away for another 4 weeks. Okay, we're all good. We're all good.
It's all right, Ollie. We all do that.
That sounds like my co-host.
Have you finished moaning?
I'm on annual leave. I'm just here. I'm just a watcher today.
Complaining?
Just a watcher today.
The first thing I was going to say is congratulations, because you are true documentary makers, in as much as you don't seem, and I'm thrilled with what you just said, because I haven't been in the media for many, many years. You don't have an agenda, and then you shoehorn what you filmed to match your agenda. In other words, bending it, or, changing the editing. You know exactly what I mean. So you're just being, as we try to be here on Men's Radio, just a conduit, a pipeline, a wire. Absolutely. From A to B. We're just the means, the mechanism by which the story gets told. So that, I have to say, is very, very rare. And the other thing is, if there is, and I will say that I haven't even discussed this with Ollie, because I try not to talk to him because he's mad. Is this?
I second that.
There you go.
Jay's my buddy, though.
And we say that as friends.
I don't need Rustin. I've got Jay.
We say that as friends.
As long as I've got one person on the screen who's on my side, that's all I need. All right, I don't need anyone else.
Always me on it.
I hope somebody turns up then.
Come on, Russ.
I was going to say, it's been a long day. It's been a very long day, and I got hours ahead. What I was going to say is this: if there's any way you would like your content on our website, you're very welcome.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I know that's not exactly like Netflix coming across you or Amazon. I get it, but as certain supermarkets.
No, I appreciate that.
Every little help. Why have you found such pushback?
I think it's a lack of, ironically, the lack of education. Myself and Jay, when we started creating content, we were working on behalf of a media company to create content for them, to educate the market about CBD, therefore growing the market space, effectively allowing people to make more money because more people understood what it was. But CBD is so diverse. Cannabinoids and cannabis-derived anything is ridiculous. Like, there is so many avenues that we started falling down this rabbit hole of talking about the benefits of hemp, like medicinal benefit. And then you're like, well, where does the commercial and corporate side come in? And fundamentally, they're the ones that weren't going to pay the bills. So we had this issue of trying to balance getting content out that benefits a economic market versus true education of the true benefits of cannabis or
The
cannabis derived.
The commercial stories are unfortunately very boring, because who wants to hear about someone who's on a mission to make money? And the tragic, heartfelt stories like the ones we've shared, the Taneem Montgomery stories, the Callie Blackwell stories, those stories which really do rip out your heart and almost drain the blood from it. I mean, like you feel every ounce of pain that they felt on their journey. Those stories are the engaging ones, and those stories are the captivating ones. However, those are not the monetizing ones. So how do you find that middle ground and balance?
And then I was going to say that Ollie, over 55 weeks, has changed my life. In all seriousness, I know I rip into him because do you know, we've never met.
He loves me. That's why
we've never actually physically met, friendship. Which is even more hilarious. But Ollie, with his the way that I try to be the everyman here, because I came into this knowing zero, absolutely zero about it, with certain misconceptions. And over 55 weeks of meeting people like Jay, Kev, etc., it's been revolutionary for me. It really has. It's been an extraordinary journey, and I've loved every moment of it. It's been great. Speaking of Callie Blackwell, I don't think she's speaking to me.
Why?
Because I did a post yesterday on Facebook, and it was about masks. I'm not going to get into it now. She took, and one of my, people on the Facebook page just went, and I thought, oh, I'm not getting involved in this. And it all got quite heated. So I just removed myself.
Russ, it's funny you say that, though, about your relationship with Ollie. Obviously, I met Ollie a couple of years ago, but me and Jay aren't actually that dissimilar. Jay comes from a much more versed, no offense, Jay, but I think Ollie's got a little bit of more information than you, but he comes from a much more educated position when it comes to this space, whereas I came in pretty much naive, barring being a London university student and the experiences that I had. Like, really, I didn't know anything. I was going in so naive, and I keep using the same analogy, but my parents, they're East African born, moved over to the UK during that whole situation that happened in East Africa. They assimilated into the UK culture. They didn't want to make a ripple. They didn't want to shake a tree. They really
so familiar,
right?
Kev.
And then when I started making this content, I told my parents, I went, right, we've started this new little venture into this world, and their faces dropped. And then it was who's the doctor? One of the first interviews we did, sorry, mind blanked, but I played that 10-minute interview about the power of cannabinoids in medicinal practice
to my parents. Wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Mike Barnes.
Dr. Barron, Sandra Carrillo, Danny Gordon.
It was Dr. Danny Gordon. It was one of the first ones.
Yeah.
It was Dr. Dan, and I played it to them. After 10 minutes, they literally went from complete hatred to complete understanding, going, actually, I want to find out more. And they would talk to their friends and our family about it. And it's like I'd be sitting at a dinner table trying to explain something that I'm really uneducated about and going, look, I'm not the right guy. Why don't you just watch the content? These are the people that are educated. But in that instant, I found such a powerful moment where one simple piece of content can re-educate people that for 40 years have thought so many things longer. Yeah. But, have thought so many things. But I am the naive one. I still am. I still don't understand it fully. And it's so diverse that I'd rather listen.
Beautiful, Kev. Do you know how beautiful is that you come in from an angle where you don't understand it fully, and because you don't understand it fully, the content you generate is actually true, as opposed to what Russ was saying before about this predefined angle. So many people have these predefined angles where they already know what they want the person to think, so they craft the opinion that way, and that's not reality. That is coercive. In fact, the matter is, there's nothing we've ever done on this show is coercive. You know me, outside of the realms of the ABC of CBD, I'm quite a heated, volatile, opinionated person. But there have been many,
not one of us.
There have been moments on the show where I've had a guest on, and the guest, I have not agreed with anything they're saying, but at the end of the day, their opinions are still valid. Why? Because my opinions are valid, and they probably disagree with everything I think about. But it's that mutual respect. And, I understand where they're coming from. I might not agree with them, but I really do understand it. And that's what you're very good at, your empathy, Kev, because you're coming at this from an outside perspective. And this whole idea of rights and this whole idea of, the like what should be done, you don't have that brick wall, kind of.
But this is it. Like, when Kev came into this industry, he came in with the same eyes as Russ did 55 weeks ago, with questions looking for answers. Do you know what I mean? And so being able to sit on that side of the fence that was still not completely sold, but not completely like oblivious, gave him an opportunity to be unbiased, to the point, and find where the narrative of what the real story is can take us.
Yeah, I mean, look, would I call myself an advocate now? Yeah, I'd recommend CBD to anyone that was willing to try it, that has ailments that I think might help them with. Does that mean that I know that it will? No. Do I ring Ollie and go, do you think if this person's suffering from, or this one's struggling with this would work? And he'll give me an answer, whether wrongly or rightly. We've definitely, actually, yeah, and in really serious scenarios as well. And thanks to Ollie for like getting involved. But just going back a bit, because we've struggled with financing it. The other side of it is that we've struggled with the outlets and media that allow us to promote or to share this content anyway. Both myself and Jay are now deemed as blacklisted from promotional content on Facebook, just because
gosh, are you?
Because so we aren't allowed to post anything or fund anything on Facebook to market or advertise anything, because we've talked about cannabis based products or like people's stories that involved cannabis. It's insane.
Sorry to jump in, is because I had a 30-day restriction for a joke on somebody else's thing, and they were friends. I mean, go figure that.
What was the joke, Ross? What was the joke? I want to know.
It was about parking. It was about parking a car. And I got
you're really stepping on toes there with parking, Russ.
Yeah, I thought, well, all my political stuff, no, that's fine. Do a gag about parking a car. And I got a 30-day restriction. So is this a permanent restriction for you guys?
Yeah.
Wow.
So both myself and Jay can't, on our Facebook profiles, cannot promote anything at all. Is that a problem? No. Does it mean that we can't like still post stuff? Absolutely. But I mean, that's Facebook as an example.
But in a world of social media, it is a problem, Kev. And in a world where we've all been locked in our houses for the last, I know less now, but I mean, for the last 2 years, we've been locked in our houses, and our only connection with the outside world is through social media outlets. Yeah. So you talk about how it's not an issue, but in reality, it is. And in reality,
Ollie, I'll throw. Sorry to interject, but I'll throw it back, which is content being out there to me is more important than it getting shown to as many people as possible. That being that content will always be there. It lives for eternity online. Like as long as Google and YouTube still exist, then it's there. It can grow organically. That's where we can get it to. Yes, if we could fund it more, then great, and we could get it to more viewers and more people watching it and more engagement. Fantastic. But it's just going to take a little bit longer.
So like if they stop, what have you got? So what is your platform then? How do people go?
So we've got content across numerous different platforms.
We've worked with numerous different content providers as well. I mean, if you think about it, are we allowed to mention the names? Are you under NDA?
No.
So mention the names of everyone you've worked with. I mean, like there's been a lot of them, dude.
No, a lot of them are businesses as well. So, but a lot of our content's under Hemp and CBD Media, which is like the YouTube channel that we kind of started.
Oh, okay.
That kind of dissipated as soon as lockdown hit, because a lot of our content was based around the content that we captured from shows. So that's where we interviewed the likes of Dr. Carrillo and countless other like fantastic people that are well versed. And then we dug deeper with certain people, like the likes of Rob Pajapi, talking about the law.
We did roundtable events.
We definitely did roundtable.
The roundtable events were.
Do you remember Phil Monk, Russ?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yes. How do you forget Phil Monk?
How could I forget?
It was
ingrained in my DNA now.
It was his birthday a few days ago.
Was it?
Yeah, I missed that. I sent him a little happy birthday message.
Happy belated, Phil.
He's a living legend, that dude, man. He really is. He's got a heart of gold.
He actually invited us into our home, and we went and filmed him at home.
So that was a real thing. So this is what I was talking about, the things you see and the live you've been invited into and the things you get to see outside of the interview. Look, he invited us into his home, but we had a screen. Do you understand what I mean? That was our interaction. You guys actually fully immersed yourselves in these people's lives. I think it's pretty amicable.
We were driving down a motorway past his house, and me and Jay were coming back from a film shoot. I think it was kind of a good 3 hours away, and we both looked at each other and went, should we pop in and see Phil? We're literally driving past his. Like, honestly, we felt that comfortable with him that I was willing to pick up the phone. And I've been to his house once. I've met him half a dozen times, but it was such a great relationship. Like, I mean, a lot of our content is based on the Hemp and CBD channel, and yeah, we did roundtables and we did countless like interview pieces. But yeah, it's always been a struggle to try and get as much engagement with that as possible, and that's always been the difficulty for this sector. And I'll give you one example, and it's slightly off-piste. Our frustration always lie in the fact that there were people that were able to do it and we weren't, and whether that's because we're just independent filmmakers.
Explain.
So we created this was in the vape sector. We created I would call it a campaign called Project Fresh. It was this idea that vaping can help people stop smoking, right? Really simple logic. It's been proven that it's 95% better. So we thought, let's go ahead and make a bunch of content about people that were ex-smokers that had moved to vaping. And like, we got the
help you with this.
I did something
with you for this, right? I remember I helped you with this. Yeah.
Like we interviewed even the likes of Professor Green, like, kind of, top 10 musician.
He's not a professor, Russ.
He's not. He's a musician. He's a musician.
I don't want to be rude, Oliver Mammon, but I knew Stephen when he was starting out. We used to talk outside clubs when I was managing bands. Don't come it with me, son.
I just want to say something. Are you legally allowed to call him Stephen? Because it's a little bit like no, I'm just saying, because here's the thing.
We'd be outside the club.
He is illegally a professor. So you're just calling him Steve. I mean, it's a little bit.
No, I'm not calling him Steve. I'm calling him Steve.
It's just a stage name, like. But honestly,
it was I don't know, about 9 years ago when he was kicking off, and we were just chilling, two of us.
So then, Tinchy Strider, having the time
say
of
what?
their lives. Sorry,
Tinchy Strider.
Tinchy Strider was like another one of these rappers at the same time as him, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I making this up?
No, yes, you're making it up.
Fine, that happens.
So
very creative.
We created this campaign called Project Fresh, and we created a bunch of interview content. We even went out on the streets and we got advocates and brands to basically sponsor people to literally rip up their cigarettes in front of us, and they get a free vape, juice. Like, we created all this content and we went to go live with it, and Facebook said no. Literally, I'd say a week later, we see a massive campaign doing pretty much the same thing, but it'd been funded by British Tobacco, and therefore they were allowed to. And I was like, well, what's the difference? Where's the story change? Like, nothing's changed. We're basically trying to achieve the same thing, yet we've been banned and they're allowed. And
and they classed it as for the promotional sale of vape material.
Yeah.
So for that reason, you're not allowed any sale or promotional adverts on in terms of marketing on social media for those kind of things, because it falls under like tobacco regulations. But it was funded by BAT.
Absolutely.
See,
so
I've said to Ollie, and I've said to so many guests, and Ollie knows this is what I'm not sure Ollie shares my view.
I actually
but it's
do.
This. It's all put aside all the campaigning, all the tragic stories, all the sob stories, all the medical evidence, put that to one side. The one thing which will be the seismic shift is when governments and major corporations say, this is a money-making scheme. This is going to replace the revenue that we're losing from tobacco.
They control the traffic lights, and until they turn the light green, there's going to be a traffic jam all the way up the road.
Yeah, that's what's going to change it. So, I'm sadly not terribly surprised, and I can't get into the whys and wherefores because I'm sure that's a legal minefield, and I'm not stepping into it. But when you're a small company or an individual and you come up against the giant corporates, you're going to get smacked every time. It's how life works. It's not how it works in the movies, but it's how it works in real life. But
Unfortunately,
no, it is a shame. Of course, it's a shame. But it all comes down to revenue, always.
Can I bring things back a little bit? Because I've got a whole list of questions here which I want to ask you, and I haven't discussed one of them yet. So basically, I want to bring things back to the CBD discussion as well, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. We cool. But I do feel your pain, Kev, and I love you. If that helps. All right. So basically, you just mentioned the first interview you ever conducted was with Dr. Danny Gordon, superstar. She's a writer, she's a blogger, and she's an awesome doctor. She's a great person to follow in this industry if you want education. She's reluctant to come on our show, hence why I'm being so charming and lovely about her. Hopefully she hears this and she decides to come on the show. But basically, she's a great doctor in the space, and she really is a thought leader. What I wanted to ask you is, that was the first interview you guys ever did, right?
Yeah, Dr. Danny was actually the first interview we did for Hemp and CBD, yeah.
Everyone remembers their first. Everyone remembers their first.
I was actually trying to remember if it was her or Callie Blackwell. I'm not sure which way round we had them. We actually did
very different.
We did Hannah Deacon as well very early on, didn't we?
Hannah Deacon's incredible.
Hannah was after that though. Hannah was definitely. This was the first round table we did, and we even had a professor from University in Liverpool. I can't remember, to be honest. It was a few years ago, but he was talking about the benefit. He's a sports nutritionist, and he was trying to work out whether CBD can be implemented into professional athletes, is like nutrition planning. And because WADA at the time had green-lit it as you're allowed to have it, like you can have caffeine to a certain dosage, he wanted to come and sit around the table and talk to all these people.
Well, WADA really is the World Anti-Doping Agency. In case people are thinking, who is WADA? So WADA is that. It's not a friend of ours.
But it was a really interesting conversation about how CBD can be implemented into their diet for recovery. And we're talking about 2018, where it wasn't widely used in sports yet. Well, it was, but it wasn't talked about.
It was really pre-4-5. It was pre-CBD performers.
Yeah.
Right on the cusp of WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, changing things. So that was your first story. What's the most captivating story or conversation you've ever engaged with? So what's the one which really sticks in your mind as being the conversation which kind of made you realize that I'm not leaving this space? Do you mean because the first, like everyone remembers their first?
Do you know, the funny thing is that when Russ was doing his introduction, and shortly after, this question sprung to mind, but for me to ask Russ.
That's interesting.
Flip it on its head, Jay.
Yeah.
I know it's a bit of a flip reverse, but the thing is...
But hold on, I've just asked you. So, I mean, let's deal with that first before you take my entire show and just scramble.
I was trying to deflect.
It's on his show. I'm just a passenger, and we can't take focus away from you two guys.
No, to be honest with you, I'm very happy for you to ask Russ, but I want you to answer it first. And then you can ask Russ. And then we can all have a conversation where I sit back again, which I'm completely cool with. It's nice to have a day off.
It's got nothing to do with CBD, though. Go on.
No,
I've got to say that Phil Monk has been one of the most memorable interviews ever. Not just for the fact of, what he discussed, what he's been through, how his life has had ups, downs, changes, and the fight that he's embracing, but the fact that he invited us into his home, he was wholeheartedly open with us. And, as Kev says, like, we are that comfortable that we might not have spoken to Phil for maybe over a year now, but if I rang him, I'm pretty sure that he'd, if I said I'm popping around for tea tomorrow, he'd be like, what would you like me to make?
I can't answer this question. I think I've got a few. Is that all right? Can I answer with a couple, Ollie? Is that all right?
Wait, is it a couple or a few? Because a couple is two and a few is more than two.
I would say that there's three.
On the spot.
There's three definitive ones to me that are like the big ones. One was definitely Callie Blackwell. It was one of the early interviews I did. And
she always
actually
brings fire, man. She always
it's not just that, but I think as an interviewer, like, luckily I got to interview people. Jay used to like be the creative behind the camera, but I got to sit in front of them, look them in the eye, and ask them their story. And I asked Callie a really simple question, and I don't think it actually made the cut, which was, how do you personally deal with all these people calling you and talking about the ailments and illnesses that their children or their loved ones are feeling? Like, that emotionally must absolutely torture you. And her response was, because I have no choice. I have to do this, or these people might die. I think that really that pulled a string of mine, because I appreciated the sacrifice she was making. But I guess the other two are kind of a bit different. One was Jamie Bartley,
amazing,
understanding.
Such an amazing
honestly, understanding.
Can we just take 1 second? Everyone,
just a moment for Jamie Bartley.
Jamie Bartley. Gotta love Jamie Bartley. Love him. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
No, Jamie opened my eyes to agricultural hemp and really, the issues the agricultural sector were facing in the UK, and how hemp and hemp rotations would completely revolutionize not only British soil and kind of cultivating other crops, but also I didn't realize how difficult farmers had it. Like the stresses that they go through just to get food on our table. And I think it was really eye-opening what he shared. And the final one, which is a bit more of a kind of, it was a kind of an anti-establishment piece, which was the piece we did with Hempen. There's a small UK business based out, I think it was based out in the southwest. I can't remember, to be honest.
Get too specific on these though.
Yeah, I don't want to we had to sign an NDA about their location. But we went there. Literally, we went there when the government said, or the powers, the authorities, that they can't grow hemp on their farm because they were using it to cultivate. To create oils which you're not allowed to use, and the fact that 80% of the crop that they were growing anyway can't be used in the UK. So we were there as the tractor is mowing down a field of hemp. Honestly, literally,
the emotion in the field that day was just so intense.
It was also 36 degrees, which is odd for Britain. We were all sweating, but I've got drone footage of some of them walking through that field as if they were losing a child. It was that intense at that moment, and literally we just happened to be turning up the day they were mowing it down, and we were sharing the space with ITN. They wanted to come and film it as well, and they put it on the news that night. But I think those are the three kind of big pieces that we did.
And just to continue on from there, if you actually realize the value that the farmers are being told to destroy against the value of the crop that they're able to yield and sell on for profit, is actually mind-blowing. If we put into perspective, say we have one field and the hemp in that field legally in the UK has a value of say 200 grand. The whole crop, if they were able to utilize the other 80%, brings the yield on that crop to about 2 million.
I don't know the exact numbers. Jamie's way more
this is a conversation I remember that I had with Jamie. But
we've spoken about this several times, Jay, and Jamie's brought this up every time he comes to the show. He talks about the limitations because of everything you're not allowed to do, and the extraction you're not allowed to run, the fact that you're not allowed to almost flip two coins at the same time. You're only allowed to do one thing. So even if you there's no license out there which enables you to almost save your harvest, and there's no output, there's no extraction facilities, there's no infrastructure, and there's no legal or physical infrastructure in the UK to help farmers or to help the system grow. And if anything, there's restrictions in every single capacity. And poor Jamie,
I feel like there's restrictions everywhere. Yeah,
feel for him so much, man. But you do a podcast now, Jay. So my next question runs on. Do you prefer being in front or behind of the camera? I know that Kev said that he had the opportunity of being in front. Jay, you were always the one behind. Now you're more in front of the camera. To be honest, I think you're better than Kev at being in front of the camera. Just throwing it out.
I'm definitely going to give Kev
just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. Just I'm allowed.
There's a reason why we put Kev on interviews. He interviews very well, but he also takes front of camera very well. I love being behind the camera. It's where my comfort zone is, and I'd definitely say it's much easier to direct from behind the camera than it is from in front.
Fine.
Absolutely true.
I was only breaking your balls, Kev. You know I love you, and I love being interviewed by you, and I know you're very skilled. And listen to the introduction again. That was all the truth. The rest of it.
I think you burnt your bridge there, fella.
I've burnt no bridge.
That's it. I think you're never going to get back on their program.
He's on Team Russ.
Forget it.
On a brighter note, the house coffee has been amazing this evening.
Oh God, I'm glad you liked it. I sent the whole team out. I said, I want first class food and beverage service, and I think they looked after you pretty good. Pretty good. I thought, although I thought I thought the smoked salmon platter was a little over the top considering the budget, but you know what the heck, you only live once. The answer to your question is, as I said, I came into this arena knowing the square root of sod all. I won't pretend otherwise.
You're gonna have to use that saying.
You can have it with my blessing. My beef with all of this is the lack of logic and the lack of consistency.
I completely agree.
That just seems mad. And when and at first I thought I was being, as per usual, thick as anything, because I couldn't understand why Ollie had to bring everything in and paying duty and everything from outside the UK, and up the road, so to speak, they've got whatever he needs. And that's like, to me, it seemed bonkers. I couldn't understand it. And Ollie has very patiently, over 55 weeks, tried to point out that I hadn't completely lost my mind, but this was the madness of the legislation. So that's one thing. I really would like to see it lined up. I'd like to see the dots joined and some grown-up thinking put into this, because it's ridiculous. And from a purely mercenary point of view, if that was taxed, and that tax could go into the NHS and places like that, happy days, right? Because we know that the tobacco tax funds so much of the NHS. Trust me, I know. I've had to write about it from 25 years ago. I know about this. I've had to research.
Crazy, isn't it?
Crazy. Now, the other thing, to answer your question, is that when the law makes no sense when it comes to children being seriously ill. And those stories, I had no idea. And I listened to the stories of these men and women who have been forced to break the law, which is something I try never to do in all seriousness, because they wanted to prolong the lives of their children, and who wouldn't, and to give them a life that was not full of pain and anguish and horror. And you think, well, this can't be right, can it? It just can't be right. And even if you think it's all voodoo nonsense, it's just rubbish, it's worked for these kids every single time. It's worked. And from the other end of the scale, 81-year-old Anthony Bevington, I still can't get over that interview.
That was
There's a guy been told he's going to die from kidney failure. His doctor's just told him, well, you're going to die. And he says, well, I think I'll try CBD products. So you can't do that. Why not? Well, they'll kill you. He says, but 5 minutes ago, you just told me I'm going to die anyway. What's the difference? So he grows 6 plants in his garage for his own use, because he's not a pharmacist, was agriculturalist. And the neighbor dobs him into the police. The police have got no choice. They don't get to vote whether they're going to arrest her. They were apologetic. Who the hell wants to arrest an 81-year-old man for trying to save his own life?
Apparently, so last week, 2 weeks ago, Guy Coxall was on the show, and apparently, I want to say the plots had thickened a little bit. Apparently, the policeman who actually originally arrested Philip, Tony, is still putting pressure on him. Doesn't visit every so often, even though he's got a legal prescription.
Well, let's not discuss anything which is sub judice.
As in, we heard it last week on the show, and I was like, he's out of his court case. He has his legal prescription. He's not doing anything wrong, and he's still getting hassled. You know, they still come and check on him to make sure that he's not doing anything illegal, even though he's not doing anything illegal. And even if he was, he has a legal prescription to do it. So it
is weird. There's a little guy. He's 81 years old. He's growing 6 little plants in his garage. He's not exactly, oh dear, everyone's frozen.
No, I'm here.
I'm back.
Kev?
He's not. Yeah, he's not. You know,
no,
not
Kev,
exactly.
hold on. Wait 1 second, Ross.
Oh,
Kev?
what's going on?
Jay,
I'm here.
I'm here. Everyone's
I
good.
am back.
Oh, we're all back. Then what happened? I'm saying he's not exactly in charge of a drug cartel, is he?
I tell you, one of the
Not El Chapo.
One of the experiences that I had where I was literally knocked off, like I couldn't believe it, was when we interviewed We did a medicinal cannabis roundtable, and actually Ollie was invited to this one. And we were talking about medicinal cannabis, and it really popped off between like the pharmaceutical guys and kind of the naturalists. Like it was like no whole plant versus no, we can recreate like the compounds that make up cannabinoids synthetically, therefore we can sell it or mass produce it, etc. And it was this discussion. But we interviewed Mike Barnes at the end of that, and he said something to me, and it was what you said, Russ, about children. He goes, when they were doing initial tests like this, like children with epilepsy, and they were saying they would first try invasive operation before they try CBD. Like it was the last resort to try CBD. And that blew my mind. It was like something that's natural, that's come from the ground, that they can control in terms of make sure of quantities and dosage. They'd rather open up a child's brain to try and fix the problem. Like
they would rather cut a child to pieces than give them a plant.
Well, hang on. Let's not kick the medical profession completely, because
I'm just adding to what Kev was saying.
No, but they're not in the middle of the desert with machetes, right? They're not in the middle of the desert. These are highly qualified people doing expertise. It wouldn't be my first choice. I get that, but they're not random. You know, they haven't dragged somebody off a building site to do it. They do know what they're doing. But the principle. But Kev is exactly right. Wouldn't you rather try this route? In other words, reverse what is the last resort. So let's do the physical invasive operation as the last resort. Why don't we try this for a month? I don't know. Pick a figure. Well, and that to me, it makes logical sense.
But it's stories like that, you know, I mean, that interview with Mike Barnes, and Mike Barnes has done loads of press, and he's, you know, really well known around not only the industry, but beyond that, in terms of being the kind of one of the main voices of the UK cannabis scene. And it's like, but that statement that he gave us, I don't hear him say that a lot. And this is not a dig at Mike Barnes by any stretch. It was irrelevant to the question that I asked at the time. But I think that is the shock factor that might trigger the change of thought, in my opinion.
I'll tell you what it is about Mike. Mike has got so much information running through his head, and unfortunately, he could only ever answer the question. I feel like the content that we got out of Mike and the content that we also got out of Hannah is things that I've never heard them speak about on any other show, on any other broadcast, edited, unedited, and not even another conversation that I've heard them over talk about. Because it's all about what the platform wants. Does the platform want scientific fact? Does the platform want educational content? Does the platform want a personal journey which makes the viewers follow and attract to what this person is swimming through and living in? So it's a different angle. And one thing which we've done at the ABC of CBD is we provided a platform very similar to what you did, Kev, where it's an open-minded platform. And I believe I probably learned that from you. You know, some of the first interviews which I had, you were on the other side, and there were questions you asked me which got gold from me. And I remember you saying, that's gold, Ollie. And I always remember, I was like, that is content. It's not about the scientific facts, and it's not about the fact that this cannabinoid is actually called this scientific name. That loses people. What captivates people is the fact that people are suffering, and then other people are finding benefits from their suffering in this world. And the reality is this can help. All right. The science is not what you need to hear right now. What you need to hear right now is there is an option. It is available for you. You don't need to go anywhere else. You don't need to suffer anymore. And I feel like that's what I know, Kev, that's an angle which you really got out in a lot of your content, is that tone of, you know, this system does exist to help you. You just need to use it. And I feel like that's also what me and Russ have tried to do. You know, the whole political angle, the whole activism angle, the whole scientific angle. It's not our field of expertise. And I don't think, I feel like there are much better people out there to host and hold those conversations. But the real life stories, you know, I feel like that's where we both focused. And I want to say, for a past education, thank you for the direction you've obviously helped me with, because it does do a lot. I've got another question for you. Having interviewed a lot of patients, what's your view of the current UK medical system, medical cannabis system?
Ooh, good one.
Jay.
No, Kev, go for it. What? This might be the easy ones.
Jay.
No, I think it's fair to say.
It's your opinion, right? What do you think about it? You think it's good? You think it's bad? You think it could be better?
From my perspective, I think that there's a lot that people can gain from the medicinal field, looking further into the product, like the benefits of what not just CBD as a product, but cannabis as a plant has got to offer us as a nation and society. Because there's so many things and stories that we've heard on our journey and interviewing people that we would completely, disassociate cannabis usage to help and aid someone any relief against certain symptoms and ailments. Like, it completely opens your eyes. One of the figures that lives with me since the moment that I heard it was alcohol is 114 times more dangerous to the human body than cannabis. Like, blows your mind, because alcohol, you can kind of advertise it.
It's everywhere.
You can get it everywhere. You pay tax on it.
There's no limitation on how much you're allowed.
Largely available. This is the point. Yet that's the first thing that's going to get you into trouble. I was going to say something I shouldn't have then, but basically off your head, and doing things that are going to land you in a lot of trouble with your health, legally, and with more time likely your spouse.
It's not just that, Jay. But think about this. I drink. I don't drink to excess, but I probably have a scotch most, like a single malt most evenings. I don't think that constitutes me being out of control. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you're watching TV, every ad break is for a gambling company. It's a bingo company or a slot machine, or it's all presented as fun, and it's wonderful, and it's great, and there's female versions of it, and it's all hilarious and bright, deliberately. I mean, I'm speaking as an advertising copywriter for many, many years. It's all bright colors and primary colors and slazzy
very
music.
Inviting,
super attractive, very sexy.
Yes, everything's inviting.
Losing your money, so much fun. I love it.
And the thing is, with the economy, always in trouble, people worrying about how to keep a roof over their heads, they think, well, give it a go. And to me, I think that's more dangerous, because it's pernicious, and it's no good and it's no good in a little tiny sort of Helvetica 2-point saying, when the fun stops, stop, because you're sucked in. Most people go, yeah, I've had enough, but some people can't. Like with anything, like with alcohol, like with drugs, not everybody can say enough's enough. I'm done now. It takes resolution to do that.
But the thing is,
that's where I find it incongruous. There you go.
Like, for me as a Hindu, when it comes to festive occasions, Diwali and things like that, like say for example Diwali in our house, it's generally a day where we'll go round to our family's houses, get blessings, but every house you kind of go to, there'll be an alcoholic beverage offered. And before you know it, like, the people that are, drinking on the day, they're plastered. And that's your day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not essentially the experience that I want to bring my son up in, and, have him think that on Diwali, we get together, we'll go and ask for blessings, it's about having a drink with everyone. It's not really what it was supposed to be there for in the beginning. Do you know what I mean? You're there.
I get it.
Diwali's the festival of light. You cherish the people around you. You offer blessings to God and other people. And, it's about spiritualism. Not about drink.
Jay, just take a look at Christmas. Tell me the religious aspect of Christmas.
It just goes through the point.
The religious aspect of Christmas is Tesco, Lidl and Sainsbury's. That's it.
You go to the pub, you get drunk, you end up in a fight, and then you get a kebab on the way home.
Sounds like a night out, doesn't it?
I remember
that's what society's come to accept. Do you know what I mean?
That's the point.
It's not an alcohol show, guys. It's a cannabis show. Come on.
But the point
is that alcohol is so far accepted
I know.
that cannabis has been demonized in such a form that people are so scared to talk about the subject because of how others around them might perceive them.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? There's very few people on my friends list that will talk about CBD or cannabis on their social media pages, because of the way that the people that follow them might interpret it, or whether
Absolutely.
they want to be associated to it.
I can just say this: there are very few advantages of getting older, I can assure you. But as I'm way older than all of you put together,
Wiser, I think, is the right
will.
word.
No, I wish I was. I'm still an idiot.
Handsomer.
But I'm just.
You're so handsome.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no. When I was right. Let's be serious for a second. One of the things that I've seen, and you haven't yet been able to see, is these changes take forever. And I always give this example that when I was a little kid and out with my dad, I'd keep him company and we go, it was always one for the road, one for the road. And I wasn't drinking, I was an orange, I was a little kid, right? But you'd be driving, one for the road, and you'd have glasses with one. It was a thing. You'd have an extra drink before you got in your car.
Yep.
Even saying that now, if I say that to my kids, they go, no, you're just making this up. I said, I'm not, right? That's what it was. So it took 2 generations.
Yep.
It was my dad's generation. Me, I was a little bit iffy. I'm not iffy at all now. I won't, right? Because I'll get a taxi, right? And then my kids, they don't drink. They will not drink and drive. Absolutely out of the question. They will not do it, which is fantastic. But it's taken 2 generations to do that.
Yeah.
These things are not instant. These changes
take time.
Take a lot of time.
Changes, real changes which are actually followed by society, changes which are ingrained in our structure. They take time to say something.
Well, look at cigarettes. Same as cigarettes, Ollie. It's the same as cigarettes, guys. Cigarettes were sexy. They were cool. They were all of this. I know, because that's the only job I refused to do. I was offered an unlimited budget by the biggest agency in the UK to do a campaign. It was for the third world in South America. I got to the corner of the street, and it's the only time in my life I was given any money I wanted to do this. And I thought, I can't do this. I can't do it. Morally, I can't do this because I don't smoke myself. So I thought, no, I can't. But cigarettes, it's taken forever for it to be seen for what it is. People still smoke, and I'm not going to get into that. It's their choice. But it does take time.
I think one of the things I was just going to say, like going back a little bit, having now spent a few years working around this sector and obviously hearing these stories, I truly believe that the solution is to allow people to do what they want. And I know that sounds really simple to say, and it's much more complicated. But I like going back to my mum, who I love my mum, but I said to my mum, imagine that you weren't allowed to have turmeric. You were banned from having turmeric instantly. Like, you're not allowed it. That's illegal. It's, it's completely wrong. What would you do? And she's like, I'd still find turmeric. And I went, well, that's exactly the same thing as cannabis. Think about it that way.
It's a herb. It's a plant. And there's so many benefits to turmeric. It's like curcuminoids.
And it's like
so active. It's incredible.
I take it every day.
I have turmeric every morning. Like, my mum makes a lovely hot water, honey, lemon, ginger, fresh turmeric. It honestly, Russ, it will sort your throat out in a heartbeat. But it was funny how her reaction was.
I'll be around about 8 o'clock. Would that be right tomorrow morning?
Come on through. But it's really interesting. Like, the fact is if people want it and people need it and people believe in it and they know what they're doing, they will respectfully take it, right? The minute you remove people's and I know, Ollie, it's a cannabis CBD show, but the fact that people aren't allowed to have alcohol until 18 means, I believe, that they drink more when they can, because it was like something that they weren't allowed to do, right? In the same way that people that abuse cannabis, and cannabis can be abused, like, they do it because it's not allowed. Therefore, there is a sex factor to it. There is a love of it. But actually, if you just opened up the floodgate and just said, if you want to take it, you take it, then that's their prerogative. They're doing to their body what they're doing, and that's my honest belief now, having listened to all of the stories and spoken to all these people. And like, our journey went on from CBD. We spent a lot of time with, Sam Cannon, who's come on the show with you guys. And we sat down with, I can't remember his name for the life.
Different people.
Yeah, but it was a doctor, and he started talking about psychedelics and how they're affecting like people with schizophrenia and how they can help that. And I was like, my world just went, what on earth? Like I went from, whatever the doctor tells me, to now I believe if I've got a headache, what do I need to do to resolve it? Not give me a paracetamol. Like,
what's the problem? How do the headache is a sign that there's something wrong? How do you cover the thing that's wrong as opposed to just fixing the problem? Don't just patch up the bucket. You find a way of making the bucket whole again.
And let me be completely clear. I have the utmost respect for doctors. A lot of friends, family, and you know, they've affected my life numerous ways with like my family and my own experiences. I'm not questioning their knowledge. Sorry, I'm not questioning their ability. I'm questioning how the gap in education that they have been given because of the structure that already exists.
And that is where we're going to have to leave it, I'm afraid. Unbelievable. I don't know what this hour has just gone by like Max Verstappen, as far as I'm concerned.
Way too quick.
It's been great. If we haven't upset you too much, would you come back? Because I thought it's been really fascinating.
Even if I've upset Kev, he's still going to come back. He has no option.
I've been trying to run away from Ollie for years, and I just can't get away from him.
This is the thing, Ollie. The difference between you and I, you're very cocky, and I'm like, well, maybe they will, maybe they won't.
He lived in Colindale. He's moved away because he hates me
moved
so
to
much.
Manchester.
Literally,
he's moved to Manchester. He would to get away from you. Right, that's it. We will be back same time next week with the ABC of CBD. Until then, thank you so much to our special guest, Ollie. As always, it's mind expanding. All right, we'll see you next week. Until then, try and stay out of trouble.
Bye, guys.